Hello and welcome to Brain Injury Bites, where we provide help and advice for people after a brain injury. Hi, I'm Ashwini and I'm a trustee at Headway Warrington. I'm also a senior associate solicitor focusing on catastrophic injury, including brain injury.
My name's Brooke and I've lived with a traumatic brain injury since 2007.
So in previous episodes, we've talked about how having a brain injury can impact on the injured person. But I think it's also important to acknowledge the wider impact of brain injury, and particularly the effect on family and friends, the people around the injured person. In the most basic of terms, I guess it's almost like coming to terms with loss or bereavement. There is a grieving process for the person that was before their injury, and coming to terms with the trauma of watching that person whilst they're in hospital in the immediate aftermath after their injury. Thinking about you, Brooke, from the moment of that 999 call to the emergency services, it was all about you. It was all about your recovery, making sure that you were in the right place, getting the right treatment, and so on. But I'd like you to sort of talk to us about how your family and friends were impacted, what they've told you about their experience.
From the start, everybody was like really accommodating to me. Like I always would sit in the front seat of the car, and everybody would like make way for me, if you know what I mean. The first time that it brought to my attention, I was out with my mates, and we always used to do that thing, you know, when you go into the car, like you'd shout shotgun to get in the first. Who would get in the front seat, and everybody did that, and I remember thinking, but I get in the front seat, and then I was like, no, you don't. That's just how my family have been treating me. So yeah, it can be another like fake environment, like I was talking about in the hospital. It's not like the real world. So you know, I came first for everything. Everybody, you know, I always got the comfy seat. I always got the best. In a way, that kind of went to my head, and it made me think I was like, made me a little bit selfish in a way. Just like having to adjust to the fake environment of the hospital, you do have to adjust to that being like privileged, if that makes sense.
I suppose it's also there's a lack of insight there in that, you know, your reality's changed. So you're in this fake environment, but you don't necessarily realise that that's what's going on. And the thing that would help you to realise that, to process the changes around you, would be your brain, but that's been compromised, it's been injured. So you've not necessarily realised that people are making more accommodations for you. And I suppose as time goes on and your recovery progresses, some of those accommodations might pull away a little bit and things will start getting back to normal. And that can probably be a bit of an adjustment as well.
I suppose my family, I mean, my accident was so bad. It was, you know, at one point, my dad had come back from work and he asked the consultant, like, you know, what sort of my chances were. And there was like, they said I had a 30% chance. So, I mean, when people say they nearly died, I very, very nearly did die. And I think they were kind of, I was thankful to still have me, but that kind of showed in how they, you know, I was treated a bit like a prince almost. And, because I used to get fatigue, and it was like, oh, you're getting tired, Brooke, you're doing this, Brooke, are you all right, Brooke? And you kind of get used to that. And it's not something you want to do. You don't want people fussing over you, but then again, you kind of miss it when it goes. So you do have to readjust to that. It's like you're in a fake environment in hospital, and then when you come out, it's still a bit of a fake environment, and it's not. It takes a while before you get back into the real world. And probably in some sense, I'm still not there.
Have you ever spoken to your family about how they coped whilst you were in hospital? I know you've spoken a bit about the impact on your mum, for example, that she'd basically moved in with your sister, and she lost a lot of weight.
Lost a lot of weight,
But in terms of the actual the grieving process, and for the person that you were before, I mean, are you even yourself aware of how you might have changed?
I don't think I have. Well, obviously I've changed. Everybody changes, don't they? But I don't know if I've changed that much. I suppose I've had some, like, speaking inappropriately and things like that. I've showed some symptoms of brain injury, but I speak to a lot of people that I've not, known from a long time ago, and they say they don't really think I've changed at all.
Okay.
But I suppose it takes, with me, I guess it's subtle. It takes somebody to maybe stay with me for a little while to notice that I have changed. Like, I would be, especially with the tiredness thing, like, I can, well, particularly now, I'm fine with it. I can present to somebody as if I've, not had a brain injury at all, but like somebody with a keen eye, somebody, knows what they're looking for, would spot the symptoms. Like, I need to go for a rest. And if I do something like mentally challenging, then I will be exhausted. And, when you go in for your recovery, it would be much more noticeable if you'd not seen somebody for, say, 6 months, because you see yourself day to day, and so do your family, so they don't really notice the little changes that you're making. But if somebody, if you hadn't seen somebody for 6 months, say a year, then they would always notice a massive difference.
Mm. You've got a sister.
I've got two sisters.
Two sisters.
Yeah.
Are you all quite close?
I think it brought the whole family very much closer, which was a good thing. Because, I suppose that's how they got through it. Because everybody was together, weren't they? I mean, I was. It's a bit weird, really, because I was like the focal point of this massive event, but I don't really have that much memory of it. And I was, when I was having the most stressful times in hospital, I was on morphine and drugs and stuff, so I can't really remember that much of it neither.
I mean, you just said that it's brought you all closer together as a family, which is obviously a positive. But, for example, has your relationship with your sisters changed since your injury, do you think? Or have they told you that the way that they treat you now is different to how they treated you before? I
don't know. You get a sense sometimes that I do, like, I'm nearly 40, I get treated like a child, but I suppose everybody says that when they're the parents, don't they? Or a lot of people say that. And it doesn't like me when I feel like I'm being treated like a child, yeah. But I suppose you do go back to being like a little kid again, because your mum goes back for caring for you again. But and you have to like grow up and prove yourself again almost. That's probably why a lot of the public speaking, like a lot of things I do, it's a lot of some of the incentive behind that, because to prove that I'm an adult, I'm brave and I do things.
Yeah. No, well, I can see that. Picking up on what you said there about your mum caring for you. And of course, I know lots of mums have that, and lots of people will say that, when they go home or whatever, that they do kind of revert to that. But do you think, have your parents sort of talked to you about perhaps, being more concerned for you since your injury, even now, just more worried about you and your health? Probably,
yeah. Probably a bit more protective, yeah.
What about your friendships? I mean, this injury happened to you at quite a formative point in your life. You're at university when, you're making new friends all the time, figuring out who you are in the world. Did you find that the injury and having that time out, did that impact on the friendships that you'd made?
A lot of people lose a lot of friends through brain injury because you for whatever you had the basis of that friendship, like say you used to go to the gym with them, or used to go play football or whatever it was, and you can't do that anymore. So there's no like basis for the friendship. I suppose I thought I had loads of friends, but then I was at university, and it was, I was working in a bar, and, a lot of your mates are like going out and getting drunk mates, aren't they? So obviously when you can't do that anymore, then you just you do move on. All of my mates in Scarborough actually, were like a weird bunch, or a unique bunch rather than weird. There's more than 10 of us anyway that we're still friends from school.
Yeah.
And then we've all sort of stayed together, and a lot of people think that's quite unique. But and everybody moved on, and they've got their own lives, and they're all doing different things, but we all tend to meet up occasionally.
And do you think any of your friendships there have been impacted either positively or otherwise since your injury?
I've made a lot more friends.
Okay.
You make friends because of, your circumstances. I've made I know people through basic. The only person that I would say that's like a friend that I've made in Manchester is a guy called Ben Chevelin, who's actually he's got a brain injury as well, and he had an accident. He fell off a scooter in Croatia, I think, when he was 21, and he's like similar age to me, and but I like Ben because he's like I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone, and I've done like public speaking and stuff, and he does it with stand-up comedy as well. He's like a comedian sort of thing, and it's all, and his routine's based on him having a brain injury and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some of them I don't think I can speak about them on a podcast, but but I like Ben because he's not one of those people that just give his in to his injury and doesn't really do anything. He's always trying to do stuff. He's always like, went around the world traveling. He went, he's always up and down from going to London and stuff like that. And I wanted to move. My focus was always to move back to Manchester. I've done that. But obviously you tend to look through rose-tinted glasses. You tend to look back at when your life was kind of really good, but you were at university, and that's when everybody else was at university, and that's the thing you had in common. Obviously, the people, when I moved back, it's not like it was, because everybody's moved on, got a professional job, often got families, and it's not been easy for me, but I'm so glad I did it. I think anything that makes you push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I've joined like running clubs, I've joined fitness clubs and stuff like that, and I've been like speed dating on my own. I think I've spoken about that before. Just I think a good way to heal your brain, if you want to put it that way, is to just, from my experience anyway, is to make yourself push yourself out of your comfort zone and make your brain work.
I want to just bring it back to your mum and dad for a moment. We talked about I think it was in one of the early episodes, we talked about the accident and how your parents found out, and your dad was working away at the time, and about him not wanting to, find out that you'd passed whilst he was on his way back from where he was. And obviously we've talked about your mum and the impact on her, and the impact on her health. Have your parents ever sought any counselling or support for what they had to go through?
My mum used to see Russell Sheldrick, my psychologist that I go to see.
Okay.
She had a few sessions with him. I think she had like one counselling session, but that was really traumatic for her. She just cried the whole time. She didn't carry that on.
Yeah.
My dad, no. I think people just deal with it in their own way, don't they?
Yeah. So the other sessions she had with your psychologist, was that around brain injury education? No,
it was for herself, just how she was. And so we used to go together because I'd obviously have an appointment with Russell, and we used to come from Scarborough, and we did it like once a month.
Yeah. So your mum had some counselling, not much, and your dad didn't have any. Were your family offered any brain injury education in terms of what to expect after a brain injury and how things might have changed with you?
Not really. I mean, I obviously can't speak for them, but I think it was in 2007, and it's the education and the public knowledge of brain injury, it's come on so much since then. It was I didn't have a clue what it was. I'd never heard of it. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's like commonplace now, but it's a lot more, especially with the hidden disabilities thing. Like there's them things in, have you seen them things in Sainsbury's? You can get them lanyard things. Yeah. Just little things like that.
There's more awareness now.
Yeah, awareness, that's it, yeah. There's the absolute curse of brain injuries that you just look like I hate saying normal, but yeah, you do. You don't look like there's any problem with you at all.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's very much once you scratch under the surface that you can see where the issues lie. And you're right. I mean, your accident was in 2007. There will have been a lot more research done into the impact on brain injury, and certainly there are lots of organisations that can offer support and guidance around that, like Headway or the Brain Injury Group. UKBIF, BASIC, but there are so many things out there that can really provide that education. And I know certainly from work that we do that I'm seeing it more and more that there is a trend towards offering brain injury education for spouses, for example, where the husband or wife has suffered a brain injury, because they're the people that are living with the injured person 24/7 and having to help them and support them through their injury, but also coping with the aftermath of the injury and the change to the person that, you know, they live with.
It must be awful, because you've got obviously this horrible shock of whatever happened. This would be an accident or whatever, and then you've got the absolute relief that they're okay and, you know, they're not going to die. But then you've got you must have like a stranger coming home, because it's like a different person. And you must just think, you know, it's only going to be a temporary thing, but it's not. And it's permanent change. And you hear of so many like relationships break up over it.
Yeah. There's a very high incidence of relationship breakdown post brain injury, because the injured person is no longer the person that they fell in love with, married, whatever. Yeah, and it's that grieving process again, isn't it? It's about coming to terms with that loss and doing what you can. And some relationships can survive it, some can't. But I suppose the more support you can give, the better the chances of survival of that relationship. And I suppose it's also understanding that, yes, you might be supporting someone with a brain injury and they obviously are going through a really difficult time and a really challenging time, but it's okay if you are supporting someone with a brain injury. It's okay if you seek help and advice for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in it.
The family just get like kind of ignored. I mean, it is just all about that person, isn't it? And it's just not a jealousy thing. That's probably the wrong thing to say, but it's all about the person. And yeah, you're right. The needs of the supporter, the friend or family member, the spouse, the partner, those needs are ignored. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're all human and we all have our own needs. Because they can very easily get overlooked, the people with people who support them. Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Yes, you know, it's important to get support. It's okay to seek counselling. You know, whether that's couples counselling, whether that's individual counselling. Brain injury education is really vital. That can often be provided by a neuropsychologist. Just in terms of understanding about brain injury and how to support, and also what support might be available. You're probably best off asking for a neuropsychologist, actually, because like your standard couples counselling, the same rules aren't going to apply because they've got a brain injury, aren't they? Yeah. They need to address the differences with that. Yeah. Absolutely. Another separate point that I wanted to touch on was just in relation to the importance of understanding and empathy. And I think we've probably touched on this before, actually, in previous episodes about, you know, when you talk about how your brain injury impacts on you, and other people might say, oh yeah, you know, I also have memory problems, or I also get tired. And it's more than that. It's about taking the time to understand how an injury might present afterwards. It takes a lot of time. You need to invest time in trying to understand it, but at the same time, you can't expect everybody to put that time in to understand you, because people have got their own lives, haven't they? Yeah. But I suppose, you know, those who have a vested interest, again, brain injury education and just a little bit more time invested can really go a long way
in terms of strengthening those relationships.
Yeah, you find, you'll find that your good friends really do shine through. The people who want to put the effort in will put the effort in.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to mention that with this episode, we have got some footnotes with links to various support groups and resources for some of the support we mentioned within the podcast. So do check those out, as they can provide a wealth of information and helping listeners with the support that they might need.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you check the footnotes for more help, advice and resources.
Please don't forget to follow, subscribe and share our content. If you do have any suggestions for topics that you'd like us to cover, why not drop us a line at hi@braininjurybites.co.uk.